Okay. It is now streaming. Samuel, will Meaning join?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started. Let me share the screen. Just a second. It's a bit slow. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Maybe I switch to the view. Okay. So let's get started. Today we have actually two topics. The third one is actually an information I would like to share that maybe I can talk about this first. We will have KubeCon China, basically end of September. And after that, we will have public holidays in China. So basically there will be around, I think 2 weeks. So maintainers in China will not be able to join the committee meeting, discussions, and also PI reviews. Yeah, this is the information to share. And based on this information, this will also that we need to consider when we are planning the milestones, especially for the next one release milestones. So any comments on this one? Yeah, if you know, we started from the first topic. This is from Pritesh.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know when we are planning for 1.1 release, and possibly we should finalize what we want to include in that, and have a tentative date also, so that we can work backward from it. So for this, I created, like, since I tried on the dashboard, the project management dashboard, there's already there are a lot of issues which are already tagged as 1.1. And possibly we cannot do them in next 3 to 4 months. And my idea was, let's do the release incrementally and frequently, like in every 1 month or 2, we should do a release with small subset of items so that user can use the features and provide faster feedback. Like, I want to know what all, like, I want to create the list of all the issues or ideas or user stories we want in 1.1. And possibly also set a timeline for that.
Yeah, I think first thing we needed to align the scope, right? And also in the scope, what are the most important features that we are going to deliver? And for others, we needed to, for other issues, we needed to take a look and decide based on the timeline. So for those not prioritized issue, we cannot complete in one milestone. We can push them to the next milestones. So currently, Pritesh, you list one feature you think from your side is the most important one, right?
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, that's the one I listed because we were having frequent discussions about it. So yeah.
Yeah, and also we needed to align the frequency. Toddy asked questions, are we set on monthly releases? I think we needed to have a reasonable release frequency given our PR review lead time.
I agree that I was like, yeah, I just want to like, I was thinking more of a frequent release, not at particular cadence. We can decide on the frequency, whatever all maintainers feels like. So it was more about like, okay, let's release frequently and let's not do something like once a year kind of thing or once in 6 months.
No. Toddy, please.
Yeah, I have the kind of the question about patch releases and feature releases, and are we gonna separate those, or we always will actually have everything as feature releases? So we need to maybe have a more frequent cadence for patch releases, like bug fixes and security issues in the current 1.0 versions of the tools. And eventually not every month release on some functionalities, which is predictable, whether it's like every 2 months or every quarter, that's up to us to decide. But for bug fixes and security issues, we need to make sure that we have some predictability for users. What are the thoughts around this kind of approach?
Yeah, I think since we already have the V1 release, right? So we needed to consider the patch releases for bug fixing and ending vulnerabilities or security issue reported. Yeah, that's for sure we needed to plan.
I agree that possibly we can also sneak in feature if we have them ready for patch release. You can combine feature release and patch release also. But yes, I think we should have a frequent releases, like at least patch releases at a regular cadence.
Samuel, please. Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to echo what Toddy and Pritish are saying. I think their requests are not mutually exclusive. If we have a regular release cadence, let's say for bugs, right? We have SEM versioning any which way, which will tell our customers if whatever release is coming out is a feature release or a bug release. So if we have a regular cadence for, say, bug releases, let's just call it that, or a regular cadence for releases, if we have a feature ready, just like Pratish explained, we will put it on that train and that train can take it, provided we agree that's a good feature to prioritize and it is fully baked. So regular cadence for releases, let's just not call it bug release. Let's just call it a release cadence. And if we have a feature ready to go that day, that week, that month, then that feature can just be put in, and that can become our next release. And the SEM versioning will indicate if it is bug only or bug plus feature.
So Samuel, you're suggesting that we don't specifically mention it is patch release or feature release. So we just plan the date, and at that date, if we have the feature delivered, then we cut a feature release.
Yeah. Think about this, that we have a regular train schedule, and the train will leave the station ever so often, whatever their frequency is. And we can adjust the frequency by a day or two based on holidays or, say, KubeCon, whatever. But the trains will leave at about a regular time. And on that train, we can put either a bug fix or a feature, whichever is ready. And in all this, if we have a security patch release to do, then we can do it even faster.
Yeah, if there is a security issues, we needed to do it faster. So if we combine patch release and the feature release, I mean, consider them as a whole for the release, how can we set up the release candency? I think for the patch release, I think maybe we can have a monthly cadency, right? But for the feature release, maybe it is not monthly based on current review lead time. So let's say if we have from now on, we have 1 month. After that, then we can decide whether we release patch release or feature release. I'm not sure I understand it, because we needed to have a kind of checkpoints, right, to decide for it. Sajid, please.
Yeah, I've been just listening to different points of view. One thing which we should acknowledge is that if we are going to do a system release like a notation 1.1, it would be good to say that 1.1 will release in 6 months or something like that. I think regular patches is also something that we have to focus on, so that when Dependabot comes on with a fix, we can do a patch release in every month or every 6 weeks with all the Dependabot or CVEs and whatnot. But that'll always go to, like, we'll go to main, but we'll merge back to 1.1 and make a release from 1.0. But having a project level 1.1 might be good, so that if you want to change the spec, you want to change anything, or you want to put in just features, all of it kind of accrue to one bigger release. That's what I was thinking we would address as a part of the next release. So my question is, have we defined what notation 1.1 looks like? Is there a milestone? And second one is, for patches, we should also define what the cadence would be for patches, right? Like what Samir is saying is, like, there is a regular cadence that we will support patch releases without thinking much, and it's all that it is, just basically security fixes and minor bug fixes which we'll take, and we'll quantify them as patch releases, but everything will go to main and we'll kind of like decide it as a patch as well.
Yeah, thanks, Sajid. Yeah, I also saw comments in the chat that Shiwei mentioned that if we can have a frequent feature release, we will have many minor versions, right?
So do we have a milestone for 1.1?
Yeah, we have a milestone 1.1 and I think also 1.2 for notation. But currently we don't have the scope aligned, as Pridesh mentioned earlier, that we have many issues in milestone 1.1, so we needed to figure out what is the right scope.
Okay, so basically we want to have a triage meeting of, or what does 1.1 mean? And here, is it notation 1.1 or is it going to be Notary Project 1.1? I think I want to address this question now before we get to release, and then we kind of discuss, oh, it's going to be this, that. I mean, so can we...
It depends. It would mostly depends upon what feature you are introducing, because some feature might require changes in spec, and if spec changes are required, then we will possibly have to do system release instead of just
I'm
repo
fine with
release.
that. I'm fine with probably creating a milestone for Notary Project also. That's kind of what I'm getting to. So that we say that this is going to be Notary Project 1.1. Notation might be 1.1 or 1.2, it doesn't matter. But all of it will align it in, like, maybe, because it enables that umbrella of things to come together. Otherwise, we'll be tackling each one of these minor bug fixes. But I'm not opposed to having a minor release with a feature. But that can be like on an on-need basis rather than the project messaging. Would be good if we decided as a community that this is what Notary Project 1.1 means, and we'll have these 5 items from notation. We'll have maybe 1 or 2 bug like patches into spec or GitHub actions or whatnot, right? Like all that together can kind of come together. I'm okay with having 2 milestones, but as long as we define the milestones, that's what. So if notation 1.1, if it needs a spec, then we'll have to go and define a milestone in the spec also. That's why I want to avoid that and have, okay, there's a notary project 1.1, and all these things will kind of come together, almost like a Kubernetes style release if possible. And that way release notes will only also be easy to kind of manage. But we can release all of them, and we'll say this is what notation 1.1 means, or like notary project 1.1 means. I'm okay either way. Just want to make sure we get clarity on next time when we go to system release, we should not have, we at least have thought through this. Yeah, I think I yield.
Yeah,
So
thanks,
can you please
Ajay. Yeah.
Sorry, can you please remind me how Kubernetes works? Like they have system release, and under system release, there are different versions of individual repos.
Right. So there's 1.27 is running right now, right? And that might be, so there's 1.26 and 1.27. So the entire ecosystem knows what does that mean, and it helps. But you can have individual CLIs also.
Okay, so makes sense. Like it's just a tag which ties up other releases all together, and yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can be a meta.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a meta release in some way. So that way you can, but the project is managed in such a way that if a feature comes and you need a spec change, you can say we can't target it in the next 6 months, but we'll target it in the next, I don't know, 1 year or the next 1.2 of the release or something like that.
Makes sense.
It's a big spec change, right? Like that's the thing. Helps us triage in some way also.
Yeah, I think at least for the patch release, we can agree on a cadence, right? For example, we can each month we can cut a patch release, including bug fixes and dependent board fixes, and if we have some security issue reported, we can even do it earlier. That is the on-demand release. So I think for these two, we can have an agreement on that. But for the feature release, as Shri mentioned, that we in the release manager, right? We mentioned that we will support n and n-1 major minor releases. So if we have 2 frequent feature releases, we will end up of the supporting work. Samuel, please.
Yeah, a quick question. A security release or a patch release, you're thinking they will come from a branch, not from the main line?
If you mean the security related issue, I think the main branch should of course fix it. But for the 1.0, we also need to release to have a patch release for that.
Okay, so that answers the question for a security patch release, that it goes in the main line and as well as goes in the last major release. What about a patch release, like a normal bug fix? Should it go in both places as well?
For the patch release, normally it will include in the bug fixing and also dependency updates, because there could be dependency issues or the latest dependency fixing some security issue in some cases. So that patch release, yeah.
Okay, that answers my question. So at any one point of time, we'll have developers working in the main line, as well as we'll have us bringing in specific changes into the last major release we support. Those are the 2 releases that Shiva is talking about. Something from the main and something in the last table.
Yeah, I think main will always also be unstable, right? In some way, if some new feature is made in, then a patch from main can potentially be destabilizing. But I think if we have all the guards in place and we're comfortable with the feature stability, then we could even create a patch from main. I think it would depend on the state of main at that point in time. But from from a project standpoint, I think being able to check into main constantly is important, just so that people can make progress without having to worry about. What I'm saying is, yes, we can patch, we can create a patch from main, or we can create a patch from the previous tag also. But it's up to us whether we want to backport or like merge everything into the previous one and merge into main, as long as the patches are there in both, right? Samir, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I think basically I'm trying to, because it took us some time to converge and release one thing. The less feature branches we have, the less places we are releasing from was my intent.
Yes, yes.
That's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm in the same camp. I just want main. I don't want to have another branch that we have to fiddle with.
Got it. Okay. Then I think we are aligned. I think we had a good discussion that on this. Then I think we are aligned.
Yeah, I have one more point there. Like right now, our release management says we need to support n and n-1 versions, where n can be major, minor. Do we really need to support 2 minor versions? Or can we just update ours? Like, do we need to really patch 2 minor versions?
What is a? Oh, you mean like, do we want 1.1.1 and 1.1.2 supported?
Yes. Like it's 1.1 and 1.2. Do we want to support both? Because then you have to like, and if we're planning to do patch monthly, that's a significant work.
Yeah, no, that's why I was very scared about monthly patches, because the overhead of patching monthly is pretty high. And my understanding is that if you patch monthly, you take the latest patch.
Yeah.
You don't worry with the previous one. I've never seen like a scenario where besides, if it's a critical patch, we would just apply the fix to the previous tag and just do a patch, right, and merge it back in.
I agree there. Like, it makes sense to support 2 major versions because they can be non-backward compatible changes for some time,
Right.
but 2 minor might be a bit of overhead.
I think it's
Toddy, yeah. Toddy
Can we define what we understand under major and minor versions? Because I think that may be some misunderstanding that I may have. Because for me, major version is 102030, and minor is 101112, and so on. And the patch versions are kind of the third digit. So
yes. I don't think we. Yeah, basically it's all similar. Major is breaking, right? So if we decide to do a major release, then we need to fork. We need to probably have a different branch at that point in time. Because I mean, we'll probably keep main will diverge to major, but at that point in time, 1.0 or 1.1 would be we patch only 1.0 or whatever that branch is. We won't be patching.
Coming back to kind of Pritesh's question, are we saying that we will not support 1.1 and 1.0? We will only support 1.1?
Oh, that's what you mean by 2 minor patch releases.
Yeah, so I am very familiar with the same versions, but I'm confused by Pritesh that he says that do really need to support 2 minor releases. So for me, 1.0 and 1.1 are 2 minor releases.
That's true. Or 1.1 or 1.2.
Yeah. So I believe we should support minor releases, and we should have patch for 1.0 and 1.1 when patches are available. When we do 1.2, we can say 1.0 is not actually supported anymore, so we'll not patch it. And I think that's fine.
You want almost like Kubernetes style patches, which is like because 1.1 Kubernetes doesn't even have like a second major, right? So it's still 1.26, 1.27. So what you're saying is you want to do 1.0, please patch 1.0. because we can't take 1.1. 1.1 might have a bunch of complicated changes which might destabilize our system.
That will depend how do we actually define minor and major releases, because if I have a breaking change, then it will be major, right? So it will be 2.0. But if it is only additive, then it will be easy to actually tell customers, well, you need to move from 1.0 to 1.2 because we'll stop supporting 1.0 if there is no danger that actually will break them. But if there is, then I don't want to be the customer who is told that actually you will not patch your 1.0 because, and I cannot move to 1.2 because the breaking change. So we need to be clear on our support practice, as well as how do we release features and whether they are breaking or non-breaking. Sorry, Pritesh. Go on.
Yeah, at least my understanding was that if there's any breaking change, we will update the major version. If there are only features which are backward compatible, that would be minor version upgrades. And patch would be just a bug fixes or dependency upgrades. And that's when I said it like, okay, as per that understanding, we only need to maintain the latest minor version, and we probably don't need to maintain 2 minor versions, because if there is no breaking change, user can easily upgrade to the next minor version.
Well, that may not always be the case, right? Because we cannot guarantee that something will not break. So we've seen over the years that everybody tries to enforce that, and like even between minor versions, some combination of software actually breaks, right? And that's why kind of enterprises, they look at more like, look, if it is a patch release, I can automate that. If it is a minor version release, then I need to go through a little bit more rigorous process to migrate. So that's why I think we should support certain number of minor versions. The question is how much? 1, maybe. But we need to like define that and be clear to our customers how it will be supported. In general, enterprises are scared from between minor versions, and there are a lot of cases that they broke software.
So if we assume that a minor version is out only in the next 6 months, they get almost 1 year's support if they stick on Notation 1.0. Is that fair?
Just as per current release management, yes. But
right. That means.
But I don't want to do every minor version every 6 months. So I was to put that. We should do a frequent releases, not wait. We should not do it every 6 months, at least not in initial stages.
I see. So you want to have more minor versions, basically.
So that at least if you have a feature, you ship it and users uses it and provides you better feedback. Like waiting 6 months for a new feature and then another 6 months to get feedback would be a long time.
Makes sense.
It'll basically iterate faster. That's what I want to try.
But do you want it to be a supported feature, or are we okay putting this behind experimental flags and updating? What's your take? I see both sides, right? Like I'm okay. I mean, honestly, as a developer, I would love to kind of like see faster releases, but also as a company, when you tell them, oh, you want to use, we're going to break you because a bunch of things came in 1.1 and they can't automate it and they don't have the confidence to automate to 1.1. That's I think where Toddy is coming from. So what would be a middle ground where we can release quickly?
Possibly if there's a new feature which doesn't break, I think should be just as it is. And if there's a feature which we like, in which people like basically if the feature which user needs and doesn't breaks anything, we can be released directly. But if a feature which we don't know user needs it actually, or which might break them behind an experimental flag, so that at least the basic version of notation for sure is stable, and any minor version upgrade. And we always say that experimental, we can break between minor versions. We don't guarantee stability around the experimental features.
Yeah, so Toddy, I think we're coming to LTS model releases at this point. That's kind of where it's all going, with where Kubernetes also went, right? Like, we don't have that rigor yet. So
Well, I'm not saying that we need to go there. Like, as long as we are kind of transparent, and I'm with Pritesh, so we don't need to wait 6 months to kind of adding features. But if we are transparent to the users that let's say if we do, let's say in 3 months 1.1 or before the holidays, will we continue to support 1.0 or not until 1.2 comes out? So that's, I think, what, and it's clear that we need to do faster iterations over the next year to add features, fix things, even bug fixes and improvements in the UI. We may actually do some changes that are considered new features. So those are necessary, and we should do them as fast as possible. I'm not saying that we need to wait 6 months. Just to be clear, when, for example, I install 1.0, do I need to go and every month update my build scripts and so on to use the next version, or how it's going to work from experience point of view? Amen.
Yeah, I would be a little bit confusing about that. We state enterprise users are not willing to use minor version. I know there are a lot of open source projects in CNCF, like Kubernetes Istio. They have more than 20 minor versions in their release. So I don't believe that a minor version is not using minor version release strategy is not a good strategy for our future release. So I hope anyone can help us explain that. I think using minor version strategy is a good way to keep us run fast with small steps.
And nobody is saying that we don't want to use minor version. I think the problem here is that, like, enterprises, they do not want to upgrade. So when they do upgrade on feature level, they have a more rigorous process for testing. While if they know that this is only a patch release, they have a more willing to accept this version of the software and not do more process around testing the software. Because features, added features, even if they are only additive, they may impact how their software works, right? And that's kind of the fear. It's not that actually nobody wants to use. So we should use the minor versions to add features, as Pritesh explained, but we should also support the previous version without these new features with the patches, only for enterprises that want to just get the patch. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's also at a significant overhead if you have to do every month or every 6 weeks. You have to do 2 releases, patch 2 branches. It's like at least a day or 2 off of work, at least. And possibly release notes. So it's like we're enrolling for a good amount of time there, every 6 weeks, every month. I mean, if we can stick to the definition of somewhere that, okay, major is always minor is always backward compatible, major is breaking, possibly that's the way to go forward. I mean, I do understand that enterprise might not like that, but if it's backward compatible, they shouldn't have any problem in it. And if they're really worried about it, possibly they can just fork it out and patch it. We always have a CR, and you can fork out your version and use it if they are really worried about a day zero vulnerability there. I'm just worried about what we are enrolling for here. It's a constant maintenance for 2 minor versions. And I expect that minor version, even if we release it every 3 months, it's like, and every patch every 1 month, there are a lot of versions we are releasing. So it's like every month someone has to spend their 2 days on working on this.
So I think currently we know that we will release frequently. I mean that we have a many feature we want to implement and also improvements we want to do, right? But if we release frequently, that we will also maintain on the minor versions, for example, every month. So I think maybe 3 months is a balance for a good release cadency. We can release features and also patch release on a 3 months cadency. Of course, if we have some security issue identified, we can have on-demand release immediately. What do you think? I think for 6 months is too long because we are still have features to deliver, right? 6 months is a bit long for, especially for the feature release.
I think everyone agrees that we need to release minor versions frequently. The contention is more around should we support 2 minor versions or not? So everyone agrees with the first statement that we should release frequently. It's more about the second one.
Okay, Femin, you have a hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, I just echo E, and I think 3 months based release cadence is reasonable based on our community situation and also our previous release experience, especially for our review speed, right? We don't have, we have not only the code implementation for each release, we still have spec, documentation, blogs, and even some demo videos that we need to prepare for each release. And also the support cadence for different releases. So I'm thinking 3 months, 3 months based release cadence is a reasonable and appropriate strategy for our future release. And also we should consider a versioning strategy for our future release. Do you want to still tie to the system release mechanism, or we want to have separate release strategy for different sub-projects under Notary Project org?
Currently, yeah, we spent around 40 minutes to discuss this. So if we cannot make any conclusion, I think we can continue the discussion. Maybe in next community meeting.
I think we can take this offline discussion, and probably, I'm not sure, like we can defer this discussion until we release 1.1. And in the meantime, we will also learn how much time and how much effort it takes to do a patch release. And based on that, during 1. Release, we can make that call.
Yeah, I think we will continue to have the offline discussions. And back to the 1.1 scope, I think we also needed to spend time offline to align the scope, right? And also there are existing 1.1 issues that previously we moved from 1.0 to 1.1. We also needed to understand the priority for those issues. We needed to do some triage work. Todi, please.
Can we agree on kind of how we're gonna how we're gonna version and what we will do for major release, minor release, and a patch release? That's kind of maybe the first thing that we need to write down as a community. As I actually wrote in the chat, it is fine to not support multiple minor releases, right? As long as we are clear to the customer that if there is a minor release, will not support like 1.1 and 1.0, so customers need to move to 1.1. The second thing is kind of how do we do the releases. So one of the things that I heard Feynman saying, so we don't need to do announcement for every like patch release, right? That there is no need to do announcement for that. We just release the patch and that's it, right? If we are adding features, then yes, we do need to do some announcement and say, okay, this is this particular release, and we added those features because people want to learn about that. For the patch release, I just go and read the release notes and say, okay, those security or bugs are fixed. So the overhead on the announcement should be only on minor releases, which let's say will happen, I don't know, once every 2 months, every 3 months, because I don't think that we'll be taking features out every 4 weeks. However, I think there is expectation that actually bugs and patches are released on a regular basis. Like I hear more and more, and if you actually listen to presentations from Black Hat and DEF CON, even the government is saying there should be a predictability of the software. So we should have in our message to our customers to say, look, we'll release patches every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, something like this. That's what I think we should go and kind of write down, and it will be clear from the website or the GitHub repository when a customer comes, what exactly we'll be doing with those. Samir?
No, I think we are aligned on that. I'm aligned with you that that's why I was initially proposing let's have a regular cadence, and if we have features ready to go on the train, we fit those features on the train, because anyway feature development will happen on somebody's branch, right? And we can point that branch to our automation and run through automation, make sure that branch looks good. The only delta is the new feature. And then if we're good, then we can bring that feature before releasing it. I think for the rest of the time we have, I wanted to focus on what's really critical for 1.1. And Pritish and I thought about it, and we did look at, or I looked at the list of things which we have in 1.1 mark today. But among all of that, to cut through the noise, we prioritize this to bring to you all about signing any arbitrary bag of bits, whether it's a file or some other JSON document, whatever it is. That's what we want to prioritize in, and we wanted to make sure we answer any queries on that. So we are ready to prioritize or help prioritize what should go in 1.1, and that's our one request to put up there. And so that's the number one priority from where I see things.
So Samuel, what was your proposal?
Well,
I mean, the next we should do, yeah.
No, I think the proposal was discussed in chat. Let's just create a 1.1 milestone, and then we can think about supporting which all versions later. I think we settled on that one. Now, what I wanted to spend the rest of the minute was what should go in 1.1, and let's keep it a very narrow release so that we can release it faster and see if we can release something within 3 months of releasing Notation 1.0. So let's give ourselves a challenge and minimize what we want to put in 1.1. And I think what Pritish has done is he's proposed one story, which might affect multiple repos. But let's see which other story we want to add to 1.1. I know we have a backlog. Go and look at the backlog, everyone. We can come back on Thursday. But among everything out there, this is what we wanted to prioritize and keep it a really small list of things.
Yeah. Should we want to? I mean, do we want to continue to discuss the scope, or we can do the homework offline? Then we can review that on the Thursday community meeting.
So can we, Samir, if you have a proposal for features to include, let's discuss them in the remaining 10 minutes. We don't need to postpone that to Thursday.
I agree. And what you're seeing on screen is the proposal. That's it. There's just one thing.
Oh, sorry, I'm not looking at the right screen then.
Did I share the right screen?
Yeah, that is the right screen. Yeah, that's the one from Pritesh. That's his proposal. So Toddy, you and I talked on Thursday, right? Let's come back and prioritize something for Monday. So Pritesh and I spent time, and this is what you want to prioritize for 1.1.
So we actually were thinking about one more thing, which is kind of expanding on the functionality for signing local images. That was additional thing that we were thinking of for 1.1, plus the one that you have on your list.
I think we're talking about the same thing, maybe, but this is saying any arbitrary bag of bits. It could be a file, it could be a stream of bits.
No, I believe what I'm talking is about OCI images, but doing the signing before we push to the registry.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I think that, so you're talking about that experimental feature which we have today. Can we take a GA? I think that's fair. I think that's a fair discussion. We had some challenges. Yeah, if that's the proposal, let's add it here. And if those are the only two things we want to march towards, I think that's a very good list to put for 1.1 and drive consensus and complete that work for the next 1.1 release.
So Feynman and E, do you have anything else on your list?
Yeah, actually, there are also some improvements. When I suggest we can consider some of those are already in the 1.1 milestone, probably moved from 1.0. For example, the like the trust policy management, using a CLI to manage the trust policy and the first user experience for the trust policy, and also the plugin. We also have one plugin PR opened for a long time, not resolved. It's about how we can use the command to install plugin, and also we also have a PR from I think from Brian. At that time, we try to improve the output messages by adding the JSON format support. So I do think we needed to also including some issues for the improvements that left over from the previous release. Pritesh, please.
Yeah, I would say let's add all of them and we can then discuss on Thursday or next Monday. Since we only have 8 minutes left, there's one more topic which I want to discuss. I mean, these are all good to have items. Let's add them here. Or we can have another milestone, call it, I don't know, triad. We already have triad. Like, just add that. Let's add the list here, and probably we can sync up some time on Thursday or next Monday to discuss them.
Yeah, sure. I think how about this? We will add our proposals. I mean the issues under this issue, and then we will have a discussion. And once we aligned, then we go back to the current 1.1 milestone. We can remove other issues that are not prioritized to the feature. How about that? Because currently we have a lot of issues, as Pritesh mentioned, in the 1.1. So let's add what we want to deliver in 1.1 under this issue, And once we have alignment, we go back to the milestone 1.1 and clean up other issues. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so I think we will do the homework offline, and maybe I think by Thursday we will have another we will have a list under these issues. Then we can discuss it further. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. I will add one more thing. As you add that list, try to prioritize within that list as well. As you list it down, so put the priority as well among what will be your must-have. Okay.
Yeah, prioritize the list. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay, because my when I take notes, the screen is freezing, so I will write down it after the meeting. Okay, then we have 6 minutes for the next topic. Pritesh.
Yeah, this was specifically about a discussion which we were having last week in the community channel. And what should we sign for non-OCI images, basically signing arbitrary data, what we want to include there. So right now, what we sign is actually a descriptor to an image. And with arbitrary signing, that might not be relevant. So I wanted to talk more about that. So right now we have like 3 fields in descriptor, actually 4. First one is media type, then second one is digest, which we want to sign. Third one is length or size, and the fourth one's are annotation. In my opinion, we are signing descriptor for OCI images because that fits the bill there. It explains everything which we need to there, which might not translate to signing arbitrary data. Because in case of arbitrary data, we don't know what we are signing. It can be a zip we are signing, and as a notation doesn't need to know what we are signing.
So I have a fundamental question here. So what is notation and what is notary project? Currently, it is stated as signing and verify artifacts. It's not mean to sign arbitrary data. So are we expanding our scope on notation and the notary project?
Can you point me where we say we sign artifact?
Well, my counter question to this one is, what is an artifact? Right. Artifact can be anything, right? So are we considering artifact only in the meaning of OCI, or are we considering artifact everything? Because like when you think from software development point of view, everything that you produce is artifact, whether it's a OCI image, whether it's a Docker image, whether it's a binary or SBOM, and those are all artifacts, and they don't need to be stored in OCI. Does that make sense, Shiwei?
Yes, and I have another fundamental question to ask is what we are actually signing. So are we actually signing the content itself or the content and its purpose?
Yeah, that is a good question, and I think that's what also Samir was asking, right? Whether we should sign the content and also the media type, which is the purpose in some cases, right, Samir?
Oh, that was Pritesh. Sorry.
Okay, that was me. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Pritesh. Sorry for missing that. But yeah, so Pritesh, your thoughts are that actually we should not sign the purpose, just the content, or?
Actually, we cannot define a purpose. Purpose can be, I think, Notary as a project cannot say that this is the purpose of this document. It always be the user defining the purpose. For example, if I sign an artifact, I can say it was a config, but somebody takes that artifact and decided to run it as a manifest. I cannot control it. Like producer cannot control how the consumer will consume that data or a blob.
Well, that is true, but this opens us to certain malicious behavior if we don't do that, right? If you, for example, say, look, I'm sending you a box of, I don't know, pens, but and I sign that, and inside the box is actually explosive, right? This is malicious behavior, right? You should declare what is the purpose of certain artifact, right? And we've seen that, for example, a lot of exploits are happening. Take, for example, changing the extension of a file, right? And if you don't actually sign this and say this is what is intended to be, somebody will open the file and the exploit will happen. So those are my thoughts, and I think that's what I replied to Shiwei. So for me, the media type of the whatever we are signing should be signed so you can avoid such type of exploits. That's kind of my gut feeling.
Wait, if you can verify the artifact and if you trust the consumer, isn't it by default, like if you're trusting a consumer producer of something, you're by default trusting what media type it's there, because they can put whatever they want, right? So for example, by default authenticity is guaranteed, then you're trusting the producer of that thing. Let's say if producer tries to decide a glitter bomb instead of this, you are already vulnerable. So you are relying on the trust of producer.
Yes,
you are trusting producer to do the right thing.
Yeah, of the trust of producer, but the point here is that I don't need to open the file before I know what its intention is. And we had similar conversation in the OCI community where we said, wow, that was the whole kind of about artifact type discussion, because if I read, for example, the signature, I trust the signature and I understand that the publisher intended this content or whatever it is signed to be used in a certain way. And then I'll use it only in this way and not try to actually open it with something else.
So for arbitrary types, which we don't know files, at least from OCS standpoint or anything like that, we can use an octet stream, which is just a byte stream. You don't know anything. We can define that in the spec that if it is an arbitrary type, this is what we can use. I'm trying to understand what is the concern. Like, are we saying we don't want to specify media type, or we just want to ignore the media type altogether? We have size and digest, right? That's a given.
Yeah, so such digest is basically guarantees everything. Size is basically protect against like infinite stream of data for consumer.
Right.
So, but media type is more like there is no significant attack which is protecting against it, at least in notation.
Okay. So
because it's like any other signed attribute in notation. There's
right.
Like
so is it okay to just say that for all arbitrary files, we will use an octet stream and be done with, and we don't know anything about the content?
Yep, that's what I was proposing.
If the author wants, they can put the correct media type. Like, say, for example, they can use *zip and they can use, I don't know, application text, even if it's or if it's a binary exe, it doesn't have a type besides an octet stream, right? So
let me think about that.
So we're over time, but shouldn't that be part of kind of the specification, how we're going to assign these things? I don't think that we'll solve that in 8 minutes that we had.
Yep, let's discuss more about this, or probably offline we can do it.
Yeah, let's start writing it in the spec, and then we can actually have that discussion.
Okay, so we are running out of time. I will make a summary. One is about that we will offline prepare a prioritized list for the 1.1 features, and we will continue to discuss it on Thursday. And about the release management, we will need firstly to clarify the purpose of the major, minor, and patch releases to make clear for our customers, but we need to have a follow-up on the cadency. And currently, we still keep the currently support as described in the release management. We support the current and the previous minor release. But for the cadence, we needed to have a follow-up discussion. And also for this media type support, Satya have a good proposal that for any arbitrary and type, we can just use the octet streaming as a default. I think we can add more information under this issue for clarify. And if user want to specify media type, they also have a way to do that. And the Pritesh will think about this. Okay, basically 3 actions I want to take the notes.
All right, thanks, folks.
Okay, great. Thanks, folks. Bye.
Bye. Bye.